The topic of my presentation is empowering students to play an active role in writing during COVID-19 and beyond. Writing is always considered the most difficult language skill to learn and master. In Hong Kong, what's worse is that students are not interested and lack motivation in writing. This is a student quote taken from one of my previous research studies. Whenever I heard about writing, I felt annoyed and I was very reluctant. Writing? Not again. In my 2018 study with Yu and Liu, I conducted a survey with about 1,400 secondary school students. 3 schools were involved, Band 1, Band 2, and Band 3, and I targeted students from Secondary 1, 3, and 5. The questionnaire covered several areas like importance of writing, interest in writing, writing advocacy, self-regulation, and classroom writing context. The questionnaire findings confirm students' low motivation in writing. Out of a 5-point Likert scale, most items received below 3. The items in red received the lowest scores, and they are: I feel encouraged when I read my teacher's written feedback on my writing. I have enough time to finish my writing. So what are the possible reasons for students' low motivation in writing? I would say is their negative learning experience, such as insufficient time to write, as shown in my questionnaire, as well as discouraging teacher feedback. Other reasons include maybe boring, irrelevant writing topics, lack of quality writing instruction, and as a result, students are underprepared to write, predominant focus on the language form, as well as a teacher-centered approach to writing that reduces students to passive receptacles. So there are 3 things that teachers need to do. They have to engage learners, motivate them, and empower them. Now, engagement refers to energized, directed, and sustained actions. Learners are to be involved in the learning processes. Motivation is the driving force that exerts influence on whether and how students set about learning tasks, how much energy they are going to invest, and how long they are going to persist. Empowerment is bringing into a state of belief one's ability to act effectively. Now, students benefit from a classroom culture of student engagement that involves a greater emphasis on self-motivation and self-regulation. Through empowering students, teachers can enhance student engagement, motivation, and self-regulation. Teachers have a principal role to play in facilitating student empowerment. They can provide the tools to allow students to accomplish the tasks assigned to help them take greater responsibility for learning and writing. Now, I understand that this is a difficult time for teachers. COVID-19 has turned the whole world upside down, and it has thrown teaching and learning into disarray. It has required teachers to act promptly with flexibility and resilience, for example, to leverage online technology and implement strategies to maximize student learning in online or blended learning environments. I know teachers have lots of immediate tasks to attend to. Nonetheless, it is important that teachers focus on long-term goals and use them to guide their writing practice, although it's likely to take them even greater effort to motivate and empower students to write. Now, in this part of the presentation, I'm going to share with you some strategies teachers can use to empower students at different stages of the writing process. Before writing, students may do the following things. They may choose or negotiate writing topics with a teacher, research a topic individually, engage in pre-writing planning individually or collaboratively, conduct peer review of writing outlines, co-construct feedback form with the teacher, and set personal learning goals. Let me look at these one by one. Supposing students are going to write on this. This is a DSE topic. You suspect that your neighbors are treating their pets badly. Write a letter to the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, showing your concern and give details of any incidents of abuse you are aware of. Suggest what could be done to ensure the welfare of the pets and say why these measures are urgent. Sign your name, Chris Wong. First, Negotiate writing topic. Now, in summative writing assessment, it's impossible to provide learner choice, but we are talking about classroom writing and classroom writing assessment. I think occasionally, teachers can provide students with a choice. Why? Because when students are able to write on something that is relevant, interesting to them, that they can connect with meaningfully, they are likely to be more motivated in writing. So for example, for this DSE writing topic, instead of abuse of pets, they can choose to write about abuse of like children, old people, or people with special needs. And they can write to other relevant organizations instead of SPCA. The second thing they can do is pre-writing research. Now we are talking about the learning of writing, not the testing of writing. So we can give students time to write. Remember, the questionnaire shows that students are not motivated because they find that they don't have enough time to write. So teachers can provide opportunities for pre-writing research, like give them time to do internet research, show them how to do it. And more importantly, teachers can provide plagiarism education and to warn students against plagiarism, to show them how to do paraphrasing in writing. Students can also engage in pre-writing individual or collaborative planning. They can exchange or brainstorm ideas in pairs or small groups, face-to-face or online. They can develop mind maps or concept maps and or writing outlines individually or collaboratively with the help of e-learning tools as appropriate. So these are what mind maps and concept maps are like. After students have produced their writing outlines, they can swap them and engage in peer review. Now you may wonder, how can students be empowered to engage in peer review? Now, two prerequisites. The first one, they are provided with quality writing instruction and know the success criteria for the writing task. Number two, they are trained to conduct peer review. To produce a useful outline for this letter writing task, students need to know the success criteria for content and structure. Suppose the teacher provides scaffolding on the content and structure by using the situation, problem, solution, evaluation structure, like this one. Then students will be able to produce a meaningful outline. Next, students can co-construct the feedback form with the teacher. Now, based on the teacher's sharing of the learning goals and success criteria with the students, they can together co-construct a feedback or evaluation form for the letter writing task. Now, the success criteria or learning goals of the letter writing task include content and structure, language use, and other features. In the previous slide, we looked at the success criteria for content and structure. What about language use? Students should use correct verb tense. They should use connectives appropriately to link up the ideas. And they should also use a good range of well-chosen vocabulary as well as a range of sentence patterns. Other features include clear paragraphing, appropriate letter format, and appropriate tone for target genre and audience. Now, this is a feedback form for this letter writing task. It's not the only way to go about designing a feedback form, but this shows one example. Finally, students can set personal learning goals based on the teacher's sharing of learning goals and success criteria, as well as their own self-evaluation of their ability, that is, their strengths and weaknesses, as well as needs with regard to the learning goals established by the teacher. Throughout the writing process, students can monitor and reflect on their personal learning goals. Now, these goals are set by one student for this letter writing task. Number one, I want to write a letter with a clear situation, problem, solution, evaluation structure. I want to use an appropriate number of connectives to link up ideas because I tended to use too many in the past. What about during writing? There are several things students can do. They can engage in self-monitoring and self-evaluation, checking relevance of content and structure through asking metacognitive questions. They can check accuracy and appropriateness of language with the help of technology. They can also seek peer feedback to enhance their writing. So first, checking the relevance and content and structure through asking metacognitive questions. Now, first of all, what is metacognition? Metacognition is about being aware of what needs to be done and what options are available. It's about ongoing self-monitoring to stay focused on the goals and what needs to be done to achieve them. It's also about ongoing self-evaluation and taking steps to modify the goals if needed. Students can ask metacognitive questions to generate self-feedback on their own work in progress. For example, in the introduction, have I provided clear information about pet abuse in Hong Kong? Have I indicated the problem clearly by providing details about the incidents of pet abuse? Have I included relevant solutions to the problems raised? Have I included an evaluation that shows why the proposed measures are urgent? Next, they can also check the accuracy and appropriateness of language use with the help of technology. For example, they can use automated writing evaluation tools, AWE tools, and data-driven learning. Now, for AWE tools, some are freely available on the internet, but I think teachers have to be mindful of the fact that they don't necessarily provide perfect solutions to students' grammatical problems in writing. For data-driven learning, they encourage students to undertake guided discovery with the help of a corpus. For example, British National Corpus, which is freely available on the internet. Now, teachers can encourage data-driven learning, but training has to be provided. From time to time, when students write, they may have queries about their own language use. For example, they may wonder whether it should be I concerned that, or I am concerned that, or whether the news is shocking or the news are shocking, or whether it's keep abreast of or keep abreast with. So they go to British National Corpus, they type their query, and then the corpus will generate a page like this to show students, the examples used in authentic English. So for this one, they will find out that, oh, it's I'm concerned, not I concerned. Now, during writing, students can also be empowered to play an active role by undertaking peer feedback. They can exchange their drafts during the writing process and help their classmates improve their writing. Now, peer feedback can take different modes. It can be face-to-face, pen and paper, online, asynchronous, synchronous, or it can be a blended mode. Now, I know that some teachers always have this question: can students really conduct peer review? I would say yes, definitely, if students are taught how to do it, and hence peer feedback training is necessary. If students are taught the success criteria, so they know the learning goals, they know the success criteria for the letter writing task. This shows the importance of quality writing instruction. And if the peer review task is manageable, there's no need to require students to comment on everything. There could be selected focuses. Sometimes even one small focus will do. Now, if students are to do peer review, I strongly suggest teachers make students play an active role by making the student writer take charge of the whole process during peer feedback. So this is a protocol or template for peer review for pairs. The student writer will start by seeking peer feedback. Like, may I have your feedback on something? Like the first goal is the situation, problem, solution, evaluation, structure. Then the peer reviewer will comment by saying something nice about the classmate's writing. You did well on something, but this part needs to be changed because there must be a reason. And then the peer feedback has to be constructive. You can improve it by doing this and that. Now, we also encourage student writers to seek clarifications if they're not clear. So the student writer can say, could you clarify or explain a bit more on this or that? And then the peer reviewer clarify and explain. Okay, technology enhanced peer feedback, like students can use Wiki, they can use Google Docs or Perceptive or Edutech. Recently, I read an article about the use of Kaizen, and if you are interested, you can go and read this article, recent article published in the RELC journal. Overall, during writing, students refer to the success criteria established by the teacher as well as their personal learning goals. They remain active throughout the writing process. What about after writing? Students can do several things. They can reflect on their own strengths and weaknesses in writing based on teacher and peer feedback. They can evaluate the goals they set earlier and the extent to which the goals were achieved and set new goals for further improvement. They can also write reflections in their learning log, and their self-feedback can be documented to showcase their development as a writer throughout the writing course. First, self-reflection based on the feedback received. Teachers can make students enter reflective notes on a sheet like this one. Now, after writing, students can evaluate their own learning goals. In this example here, this student has set some goals for story writing, like to write an interesting story that can entertain the readers, to write an attention-grabbing story opening to capture my readers' interest, to end my story in an impressive way so that my readers can remember it, and to use appropriate dialogue to make my characters come to life. So after writing, after receiving all the feedback, the student wrote some reflections in response to each of the goals previously set. For example, the first one, from the teacher and peer feedback, my story could make them laugh, so I think this goal was achieved. For the second goal about the story opening, although I used a proverb to begin my story, it was not appropriate to my story. Next time, I will finish the story first and return to the beginning to see how best I should begin it. In this way, I should be able to choose a more appropriate proverb that attracts the reader's attention. For the third goal about the story ending, my teacher and peer both remarked that they liked my ending. This goal was achieved. Finally, about the use of dialogue, I think I overused dialogue in the story. It was a bit confusing, especially in the middle of the story. I will remember that more is not better. Students can also keep a learning log for the writing class. They can write reflections on each piece of writing. They can reflect on the following, like what goals did I set for myself? What did I do well? What did I do less well? What problems did I encounter? What did I do to solve the problems? What are the goals for my future writing? Okay, so much about student empowerment at the different stages of the writing process. Now, what can our students do during the early summer holiday? Okay, what can students write? Teachers can create a class blog and invite students to contribute entries to the blog and post comments on classmates' entries, with the teacher contributing as well. Teachers can also create an informal online forum and invite and encourage students to communicate everyday life matters. They can write in simple English, like, I bought a new game, it's fun, so another classmate can respond and ask a question. Or, who has got the third shot? Teachers can also arrange creative writing opportunities, like creating a class book on tips on how to stay healthy during the pandemic, or organize informal writing competitions on the following, like story writing, digital storytelling, or riddles and jokes. There can be riddles and jokes about the pandemic, like you wear pajamas at night. What do you wear in the daytime? The answer is mask, right? Face mask. What's the difference between working in an office and working from home? I guess the answer is COVID. Or they can rewrite lyrics using songs they are familiar with. Now, this is AB's song with the lyrics rewritten. It's called COVID Song. Let's see if it works or not. Don't forget to wear a mask. You can put on a face shield. If you wear your goggles too, you won't catch COVID-19. You don't want to look funny, but they help you stay healthy. Okay, this was written by me actually. Okay, I know that at this point you may have some questions, so I'm going to look at some FAQs from teachers. Well, is it possible to motivate and empower students to write during such tough times? Pre-writing collaborative planning and peer review for students, etc. Are you kidding? My response is, teacher expectations create self-fulfilling prophecies in the classroom. When a teacher holds a negative expectation about students' ability to do certain things, like to play an active role in a writing classroom, such an expectation will become a reality. What I mean is, if you think your students are not able to play an active role, this is not going to happen. in your writing classroom. Now, some of my previous MA students were skeptical about peer review, but through undertaking small-scale classroom inquiry, they developed new beliefs about peer review. Let me share 2 examples with you. Now, this is Betty's experience with peer review documented in my 2010 paper. Betty wrote, "Through peer review, I find that students are helping each other. Students benefit from one another. Why not do something like this more regularly to make students learn from one another, rather than only from the teacher?" This is Cindy's experience with peer review. Cindy is a primary school teacher. When I designed the peer feedback form, there was a hesitation to include praise and polish paths, as they might be difficult for young learners with limited proficiency of English. Also, I wondered if students could give constructive feedback to their peers. However, I was inspired by a scene while I was observing the writing class. One of my students, who has been very quiet and has low motivation in class, took out his English textbook to look for words for writing the peer comments. This picture reminds me that learning is a process and not a product, and students should be encouraged to take challenging tasks in order to explore their potentials. The 2 teachers' experiences remind me of Guskey's model of teacher change. In this model, we start with change in teachers' classroom practice. And then when teachers see some change in students' learning outcome, positive change, they will change their teacher beliefs. Now, in the case of Cindy and Betty, they were a bit skeptical of peer review to begin with, but they undertook a classroom inquiry, they tried out peer review, and they noticed that students could do it and they could learn well, so they changed their belief about peer review. Now, for those teachers who don't believe that students can be empowered to play an active role in the writing classroom, so first of all, in this model, they will not do anything. They will not change their classroom practice. If they don't change their classroom practice, they cannot see any positive change in the student learning outcome. And of course, they will not change their teacher belief about student empowerment. And this is the self-fulfilling prophecy I referred to earlier on. Now, another FAQ from teachers is, students do play an active role by using Google Translate when they write. Should teachers allow Google Translate? Okay, I personally think that we should discourage students from writing in Chinese and using Google Translate to convert it to English. And I think as part of the class honor code, we should tell students that they should not cheat by translating a Chinese text to English. And we can even make them sign a contract. We have to spell out expectations clearly and create a classroom culture where mistakes are a natural part of learning, so that they are not afraid of making mistakes. More importantly, I think teachers can show students that oftentimes Google Translate actually does not work. I tried these 2 expressions. 一山還有一山高. The Google Translate version is, there are mountain, high mountain. Definitely, it doesn't work. 大材小用, great talent and small use. It doesn't work. And if students have to use Google Translate for certain expressions, I would ask them to mark these expressions in the text and encourage them to check the accuracy, appropriateness, and usage with the help of a corpus like British National Corpus. Like 人山人海, the Google Translate is crowd of people. Does it work? Well, it may, so let's check. This is from the British National Corpus. At least students learn that they have to use there is a crowd of people, not it is, right? There is a crowd of people, right? Or they can use the plural, crowds of people. There are crowds of people. Okay, beyond COVID-19, hopefully the pandemic is over soon. We need sound educational principles that can stand the test of time. And I believe that the principles shared in this presentation can stand the test of time. It's important to establish clear learning goals and assessment criteria for learners, to get them to set their own goals, to monitor and evaluate their learning so that they're empowered to take charge of their learning and play an active role in the writing process. Now, pandemics come and go. What if we are hit by another pandemic after COVID? With student empowerment as teachers' long-term goal, and if they work consistently towards it, students will gradually learn to take greater responsibility for learning. I'd like to share some insight from a teacher teaching in a Band 3 school, recorded in my 2019 paper. The teacher wrote, "Teachers really need to believe in their students. They are capable of more than we think. We should think about the long-term benefits for students and not forget that the purpose of teaching writing is to help students develop into independent and competent writers." I'd like to end by encouraging teachers to undertake innovation and to acquire the innovator's mindset, to embrace challenges, to seek out challenges, not to be afraid of obstacles, to work consistently towards their goals. And when there is criticism, don't be afraid, because it creates opportunities to implement new ideas and to learn from other people's success. So on this positive note, I'd like to end my presentation. Thank you.